Hey, good morning. What's going on, everybody? It is the early slate strategy show. Could have done a live before lock here, but I figured why not? Let's just do 11 o'clock. Keep with a little bit of consistency here, and that's how we're gonna do it. Also, tired as hell. I wasn't moving the rotation around at all today. We had a late hockey game last night, and then someone decided to bring beers afterwards. I stuck my head in a cold shower today just to wake up. So we're here. We got a fun one too. Only 4 games, right? 4 games. And then we've got an early slate tomorrow too. So I think we'll do live before lock for that. Might actually be Josh and myself. So yeah, we'll make that happen. By the way, glad to have you guys here. We got 4 games. And if you don't mind, hit that thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, leave a comment down below. Spencer Strider's back. Spencer Strider is back in action. That's huge, right? And it's tough to say what we should do with him today. I looked at the initial Sims run, and this is basically the crux of the entire conversation that we're going to have, because it's not like pitching is all that great on this slate. I looked at the Sims run and wasn't getting all that much of him on this first run. Could that change? Certainly. When I ran this, we had updated it around 9 Eastern time. We still didn't have the Mets starter. We still didn't have Detroit. It is Montero for Detroit. And then for the Mets, they bring up this Hagenman character. So he'll be on the bump for the Mets. We should have that update sooner than later. So definitely. But yeah, Steven, I know he's still playing with making lineups. He enjoys that single lineup sim. But how about Spencer Strider? This now becomes the question. So like if we were to go ahead and favorite 150, how much Spencer Strider do we get? We'll break this whole slate down pitcher by pitcher. You know, we only have 4 games to do so, so it should be easy enough. 22% Spencer Strider. This guy's going to be insanely popular, right? He's going to be super, super popular. So the question is, do we ride the heavy chalk on Spencer Strider, or do we find other ways to go? It is not the best pitching slate. Like you have David Fester, who was called up from AAA, made a start last time out, but didn't get through the 5th because the guy threw like 64 pitches. Not the easiest matchup against the Mets. You have Ronel Blanco against St. Louis, Chris Bassett against Atlanta, Steven Matz against Houston. You just like Steven Matz has a 12% K rate so far, a single-digit swinging strike rate. And then Jose Quintana against Detroit. So where do we go? And then, of course, like I said, Kaiser Montero, he's not an exciting pitcher by any stretch. And this Hagenman fella versus Minnesota. So what do we do? Do we look towards Spencer Strider here as kind of the anchor at 10K? I can tell you this much. He was down a couple ticks on his fastball in these rehab starts. So that's not great. But he was also dominant. Like dominant. So what's the answer? You saw Strider strike out 27 batters in 13 2/3 innings in his AAA Gwinnett starts. I think it was 3 of those starts. 27 strikeouts to 27-5 K to BB ratio, 13 2/3 innings. Now, the interesting part about all of this too, like we can just dig straight in here. The Toronto Blue Jays, it's early in the season, but this team has the lowest K rate in the league against right-handed pitching, 17.4%. Again, small sample, how much of that is going to, factor into all of this. It's still Spencer Strider. He still struck out almost everybody he faced in his 3 AAA appearances. So I don't know. Yeah, Larry, this is the early. Well, here's why, Larry. This is the early slate, and I figure we have a live before lock tonight for the main slate, right? Like we have a live before lock for that, and we've got a 4-game early slate with pretty decent prize pools too. 25K up top on DraftKings for the $15 I think relay, another 20K up top contest, some other good ones. So, I mean, why not just break down this early slate and go from there? I think that's probably the best way to do it. Jason, good question. Is Strider on a pitch count? All right, so he worked up to 90 pitches in his last start. The only blemish is the fact that his velocity is down a little bit. That's it. Really, the only blemish. I don't know. Aside from that, nobody could make contact. He threw 90 pitches, so I don't see why. Like, if you were to set a pitch count projection for him today, how do you go under 90? Maybe they don't want to ramp him up north of 100, right? So, like, let's say he goes 5 innings and he's at 89. Yeah, my guess is that he's probably done. But if he goes 5 innings at 80, he probably comes back out for the 6th. It's a tough call only because of his popularity. Like, if Strider here, let me get to the top pitchers tool here. And we didn't update yet for all 8 pitchers because there were two that weren't released yet, but now we have all 4 games, all 8 lineups released. So we should have this update sooner than later. But right now, I mean, we've got Strider 64% ownership, which is why he's showing negative leverage in the top pitchers tool. Not because he isn't good. He still has a 45% top 2 pitcher probability, right? Like, if you look at the FanDuel early slate as well, 17.8% top pitcher probability. He's still that guy. $9,500 too. He's $1,000 cheaper than Chris Bassett, which is nuts. But I know he hasn't pitched in literally a calendar year, right, with that UCL tear. But seeing those rehab appearances is really tough to ignore. It really is. Yeah, and Cho called and said negative leverage for pitching, not too important. No, and you know, it's also going to be that type of leverage for these expensive high owned pitchers is going to be it's going to be intensified. Like, when you look at a smaller slate, it's always going to be more negative leverage on these type of slates, right? Like, if this were a 12 game slate, you wouldn't be seeing negative 33% leverage. But yeah, where are you guys at? I mean, let me know in the chat. Are you going straight to Strider here in his first start after what we saw in those rehab appearances, knowing that he worked up to 90 pitches? Steven, I totally agree as well. You have no idea if Strider was down in velocity because it was rehab. There's no way to know. There isn't. My argument would be that this is him working back up and that his velocity is going to be perfectly fine. Anthony Separillo, just play him and get different elsewhere. Sure. So where do we get different elsewhere? Right. So our SP2 options here, and I'm going to keep refreshing this. Hopefully we get an update sooner than later. It shouldn't make a huge difference from the top pitchers tool because I don't think we're playing Hagenman or Kiter Montero with a ton of frequency. But where do we go elsewhere? So if we plug Strider in, right, now you've got David Festa, who, look, the guy has decent strikeout stuff. I'm not going to argue that. We've seen some pretty decent performances from this guy. We shouldn't ignore the fact that he was just called up, though, and threw less than 65 pitches in his first start, right? You know, he was at AAA this year, was fine, but last season, you know, he gets brought up. Good strikeout stuff at the major league level, no less. 64 and a third innings pitched. He had what, 27.8% K rate? The guy's not bad at all. He's not bad. So the question I have it's not like, hey, can you play Spencer Strider or is he a good play? It's, if we're not playing Spencer Strider, who are our options, right? That's the question. Ram said, even if Spencer K's 7 and 5 innings and gives up 3 runs, with this pitching slate, that should be good and no one else has the upside. So that's the question, right? The Sims have been, I'll say this much, like the Sims have been locked in recently. And, you know, we saw yesterday, remember we were doing this show for any of you that tuned in. Appreciate you guys doing that each and every day, by the way. Had a lot of fun doing this to start the week, to start the show this week. But like Tyler Mahle yesterday we were getting a lot of exposure to Tyler Mahle. And even I'm sitting there scratching my head a little bit. He went out there and dominated. This isn't telling the future or anything like that, right? But it's factoring projections and ownership and leverage. And Tyler Mahle ended up being a fantastic play. A lot of the good pitching got beat up yesterday too. You know, Flaherty, I don't think he even got through 5. So it's tough. Valentino, only thing is he's 10K on DraftKings. Yeah, he is 10K. I guess here's the question, like 10K for Strider on this start, in his first start, MLB start in over a calendar year. I think April 12th, 2024 is the last time he pitched, right? 10K could either be overpriced or wildly underpriced for a guy like Spencer Strider. You know, Schwallenbach was 10.5 yesterday. So I see this two different ways. I think it's just, you know, you're taking a leap of faith in one direction or the other, right? You have to be taking a leap of faith. If you're playing Spencer Strider at 10K in his first start back in that long, you're saying, all right, this guy's AAA starts were fantastic. I'm not worried about that velocity because the results were impeccable. He threw 90 pitches. Great. If you're not playing him, you're saying, all right, not only do I think that Strider could struggle against the Toronto team that is not striking out, by the way, for those of you guys that are just jumping in here, I'll show you. They do have the lowest K rate in the league against righties through 507 plate appearances thus far. So not a monster number, but still, you know, that's a pretty low number. Pretty low number. Last year, one of the lowest K rates in the league as well. So it's that I don't love that. But another thing too is George Springer, who has been absolutely dominant this year. I mean, this guy, incredible start to the year. He's out of the lineup again today too. So you have no George Springer in the lineup. I think that it definitely doesn't hurt Spencer Strider, right? And really, outside of the low K rate, when you look at this team, this is not that impressive of a lineup. So yeah, they're not striking out, but on the other side of the coin, they have a 92 WRC plus against righties so far this year. It's bottom 10 in baseball. They haven't been particularly good. They have a 291 WOBA. Where's that sitting? 24th, right? Look at this. Look at Toronto's isolated slugging against righties, 0.098. They're putting the ball in play, but barely. Terrible stuff. This has not been a great offense by any stretch. Aside from putting the ball in play, you know, what have they really offered? Not a lot. Not a lot at all. You know, putting a lot of balls on the ground. Interesting spot. You're going to have to make your own decision here, but I think I probably boost Spencer Strider a bit. I think I probably will, because this is a good matchup. They're, you know, arguably their best hitter is out of the lineup. I'm okay with it. Now, granted, if I was playing 150, I'm not. I have 20 lineups today. 22% Spencer Strider. It's okay. So with 20 lineups, what do I do? I don't know yet. I haven't, you know, finalized anything, but do we get to like 30% Strider and call it a day? You're still going to be well under the field on Strider. That's the thing. Maybe you just play him everywhere. Maybe you just lock Spencer Strider in. It's a weird spot for a guy coming back after a calendar year, but we can talk about some other spots as well. M-Wall, do we expect AAA hitters to be able to hit Strider even with a few knocks on velocity? So obviously you expect him to do well, but let's at least put it in context. It wasn't like he went out there and struck out 15 in 13 innings, right? Like he didn't have a 15 to 5% K to BB ratio. He struck out 27 in 13 and 2/3 innings. Like that's, you know, that's insane. You're talking about in like monster numbers. So no, I don't expect AAA hitters to hit Spencer Strider, but if you consider the fact that, you know, he's striking out on average more than 2 batters an inning, that's right. Actually, it was right around 2 batters an inning. I'd say that holds some water. Anyway, yeah, David Fest is the big question here. Like, is he our best value play right now? I think the answer to that is probably yes. If you take a look just at implied totals here, 4.4, for the Mets, but no other teams really have big totals. No other teams have big totals. I also think you have a decent amount of win equity for a guy like Festa today. You have no ace on the mound for the Mets. Like I mentioned before, it's Justin Hagenman. Justin H is on the bump for the Mets today. And the Minnesota Twins are minus 120 money line favorites. So nothing significant, but it's there. It's there. And you look at some of these implied totals. Toronto's still the lowest implied total by a bit on the slate. If you're asking other value options, I don't know. Are you guys entertaining the idea of getting to Steven Matz? Because if there's one thing I know about this guy, sure, he can generate some ground balls, but the deterioration of any strikeout stuff that once existed for Steven Matz, because he was never an elite strikeout pitcher. I mean, it's getting worse and worse. So far through his first, what does he have? 3 starts this year? Or I'm sorry, 5 appearances, 1 start, 11 and 2/3 innings. No starts, sorry, 5 appearances. He's striking out 12% of the batters he's faced. I also have no clue how long he's going to go in this game at all. I have no clue. The most pitches he's thrown, right? 46, 53, 51, in some of these long relief situations. What are you getting them to? Like maybe 70? I think that's probably reasonable. I don't see why you couldn't stretch him out to 70, but against Houston, that spot looks terrible. He has a 3.5K prop for today as well. You're talking about a guy that has a 3.5K prop. Here, look at this. Because if you're pulling up K props for some of these guys, it'll give us a lot of answers as well, to at least see where they are. Let's go start time soonest. So Strider, this is pretty wild. 5.5. If you like that 5.5, by the way, jump on that DraftKings line. FanDuel's got it juiced at minus 162, minus 166 on Caesars, minus 155, 50. Wow. Yeah. Pinnacle's at minus 150 and Circus or 45 Circus at minus 150. But I think there's probably a bit of value there. It is telling, though. It is absolutely telling that Strider only has a 5.5K prop. Maybe if you're feeling frisky, you just go out there and you ladder that K prop. Maybe just ladder that and if we get that kind of upside game from Strider, you're getting real good odds on that. My guess is you won't see the 5.5 very often going forward if he comes out and rips off 8 strikeouts today, for sure. But DFS, let me see. Let me see if it changed, because the one I was looking at had Hagenman. Let me see. Oh, you're right. Okay. It is Huascar Brazaban. They just changed the site I was using, literally just changed that. So appreciate you. What do we know about this guy? We'll get to that in a second, but let me look at some of these K props. Bassett 5.5. I think Bassett has to be in play today, whether you want to or not. We were getting to 42% of him. We're getting to a lot of Festa. And then, Ronel Blanco. He's a good pitcher. Didn't he throw a complete game? Or didn't he throw a no-hitter in his first start last year? Or am I just remembering that completely wrong? You guys will remember better than I do. I'm pretty sure one of his starts early in the season, this guy had a no-hitter. So this Brazaban, are we just getting him as the opener? Yeah, he's the opener. Okay, there you go. So yeah, okay. So Hagenman is going to be your long relief guy. So you've got this as your opener. Pretty much just avoid Mets pitching then in this spot. You pretty much just avoid this. Ronel Blanco, 4.5 strikeouts. It's fine. Steven Matz, 2.5 strikeouts. I understand that there's heavy juice on the over here, but 2.5 Ks for Steven Matz. That's just pitiful stuff. Look at some of these, though. Like Kiter Montero's at 3.5 or 4.5 with heavy juice to the under. There just isn't much. That's why when you look at a guy like Festa, and you're seeing a decent enough K prop here in this matchup, 4.4 implied total for the Mets, it does kind of make sense. I'm wondering though, does Jose Quintana, like, does this guy need to be considered? Do we need to be considering more Jose Quintana today? You know, he's got a decent enough K prop. Total pitching outs. Let's see on these guys too. 17.5 for Bassett. So you're projecting him at like 6 innings. Not bad. Strider, 16.5 with juice on the under. Quintana, 17.5. It's really not bad on Jose Quintana. A lot of this stuff actually looks quite good at 7,800. How much better is David Festa than Quintana in this spot? Montero, 14.5. So you're projecting him around 5 innings. Ronel Blanco, 16.5. All right. So, yeah, I mean, that gives us a baseline here on some of the shit that we're looking at. But I would say for the most part, Festa, and then I am a little surprised that Quintana, we're getting such little exposure to Quintana. Quintana's not that bad. Let me pull him up here. Is Strider on a pitch count? We don't actually know, but he threw 90 pitches in his last rehab start. 90 pitches in that last rehab start. Spoonie, I agree. Quintana could be sneaky. And Red Spike, Tigers lineup is watered down. Yeah, you're going to see that oftentimes with these night to day games, right? So you get a Tigers game last night. Now they play the next day. How watered down? Not super watered down, but you know, you'll take it. I think Quintana is at least a respectable option here. That's, you know, what did he have? 1 strikeout in this first start, but last year he was good. He was good. You're never going to get elite strikeout stuff from him, but he can work deep into games. He can work efficiently. He can limit power. I don't hate it. I genuinely don't hate the idea of getting to some Jose Quintana here. Let me see, by the way, guys, if this updated. If it did, oh, perfect. Let's run a new sim here. It just updated about a minute ago. Perfect. So we'll do that while we work through some of these other guys in here now that we have the starters. Yeah. So Strider, Festa, and then Bassett. This is a Braves team that, you know, they're definitely coming around. I don't think anybody expected them to just stay flat forever. That wasn't to be the expectation here one bit. But they strike out. This team strikes out. And the Braves are one of these squads, at least from the way I've seen it, where they could still tag you for a few runs, but as long as you're getting those Ks, you could be in decent shape. And Chris Bassett's a solid pitcher. Atlanta has so far 469 plate appearances, 3rd highest K rate against right-handed pitching. And Bassett is somebody that has, you know, do we say borderline elite strikeout stuff? Because it's certainly good. I know this fella's no spring chicken anymore. What is he, 36 years old? But still, he's striking out 29% of batters. Of course, you know, if you're looking at this, I think you probably settle in somewhere around that 25% range. But yeah, I don't mind Bassett at all. It's not as bad a pitching slate as it looks on the surface. 13% strikeout rate, or swinging strike rate, by the way, for him. He's faced Boston, the Mets, 9 Ks and 7 Ks against Baltimore. Yeah, he looks good. I think if I'm looking at all of these, if I'm looking at just the pitchers in general, you have Strider up there, you have Bassett, and then you have Festa and Quintana down there. I would say from a Quintana standpoint, you have to factor in that this guy simply is not going to get a lot of strikeouts. Can he work deep into a game in a decent enough matchup? I think the answer to that is absolutely yes. But in no way am I convinced that you're going out there and you're getting, 7-8 Ks from Quintana, but I don't think you need it. I'm not convinced you need it. Debating on Strider Festa or Strider Quintana for cash. Well, I mean, if you're deciding on that for cash, just go with the ownership. So we have, are we on DraftKings here? Yeah. So we have, what do we have the ownership at? Let's see. My guess is that Festa is going to be way higher owned than Quintana. Like Festa would be your cash play here, and Strider definitely your cash play. I don't know what Strider Bassett looks like for cash. I don't know what type of builds you're getting there, but those are your two highest owned guys. I think you should be. Actually, Quintana getting more ownership than Festa. So now I can fully understand why we'd get more Festa in the Sims. Definitely. Yeah, I'd play the upside game there with David Festa in the Sims for sure. Like as far as tournaments go, very little interest in guys like Mats, Hagenman, those type of guys. I don't think we need to get cute. Cho called him. You probably just need someone who won't sink your lineups. Enter Chris Bassett. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like Chris Bassett could go out there and give up a handful of runs, but he could also strike out 8 or 9. Yeah. DFS temp. Yeah, I mentioned maybe you mentioned that before I brought it up. But yeah, 28% K rate this year, 24% for his career. Still for his career though, an above average strikeout pitcher. Definitely. There's no doubt about it. Astros Mets going to be chalk. We're going to get into that. All right, let's see. Let's go ahead and look now that we have these updates. See if our exposures have changed. What's our projection on Spencer Strider too? Hasn't changed much. Bassett's not far behind him. We have Festa with a nice projection as well. All right, let's see what our exposures look like for pitcher. Yeah, just not a lot of Strider here. If you're using the Sims and you want to get more Strider, absolutely you'd want to boost him. I'm not saying you have to. I'm saying if you want more of him, if you go in and give Strider a nice little boost, you're going to get a decent amount of it. We're not getting any Steven Matz. We're getting no exposure to those pitchers from the Mets. But Blanco right now against St. Louis, for what it's worth, I do like Ronel Blanco at 8,100. I think that's a very reasonable price point in this spot. You know, this is a guy that can certainly work deep into games. He hasn't looked super sharp to start the season, but I'm not really worried about that. So yeah, I'd say if you're willing to throw Kiter Montero out there into some tournaments, I think at 6,500 you could be. Remember last year he was 4,500 for like 3 straight starts. Strider for me, Bassett, Festa, and Blanco are the 4. And then it's just a matter if you're trying to make expensive stacks, and we'll get there. By the way, you guys want to use these Sims for free? I've mentioned it every show. I'll tell you again, because it's just a no-brainer. If you haven't gotten the Sims yet, it's $120 value for the core package. You're getting the Sims, the top stacks, the top hitters, top pitchers tool, everything on the site for MLB, literally everything for the month, just by signing up with one of our sportsbook partners. That's all you have to do. If you go to this page right here, it's actually, link is in the description. So click the description and you'll see, sign up with any of these sports books, or by the way, pick'em sites. If you're in non-legal betting states, sign up using this page and get a free month of core Sims for every single book or pick'em site you sign up on. So here's what you would do. Choose one of them. You got to click claim offer. Otherwise we can't track it. So say you want Caesars, you want to get all of your bonuses there, but you also want to get a free month of Sims. Click that, make the minimum deposit, place a bet. After your first bet settles, just take a screenshot of that settled bet, end of your welcome email. It's all in these 4 steps. Email it to us at support@stokastic.com with those screenshots and just tell us what you want. Say, hey, look, I signed up for Caesars, I signed up for BetMGM, and I signed up for Fanatics. I want 2 months of MLB. That's like $240 value there. And I would like an NBA core Sims package as well, because I'd like to run it through this next month of the playoffs. So if you're not on these books yet, guys, not only are you getting the bonuses, so you're actually benefiting from signing up here, but you're also getting a free month or as many months as you want for signing up on any of these books just by clicking this and using these links that we've offered on this page. Straight no-brainer offer. Get the tools, take advantage of it, start taking down some tournaments. One of us is going to take it down today. So make sure, do it right now. So you're not going to have it for the day slate, but get it for the main slate. You will have access. You will be set up using the sims, using the single lineup sims and all of that. You'll be set up by the time, tonight's slate rolls around. Can't beat that. All right, let's take a look at some stack exposure here. I think we've broken down pitchers enough, but you're going to have to make some decisions on your own. There's no doubt about that. There's no doubt about that. Strider being one of those, Bassett being one of those. How much Festa do you want to get to? It's a tough question. It's a tough question. All right. DFS temp. Blanco scares me. He's prone to blow ups, and the Cardinals offense has been tough. They have. Also, it feels like every Houston pitcher is prone to those blow ups. Really does. We saw Valdez. Valdez is another guy that can just get rocked from time to time, and he did. He didn't make it out of the fourth last time out. All right, stack exposure here. Let's go. Let's sort by 5-man stack exposure first. Detroit. Okay, interesting. This Detroit spot, huh? Against Jose Quintana. If we're looking at just implied totals on this slate, the highest implied totals, now that we've got this updated top stacks tool for the new pitchers going, the highest implied totals, and we can just sort right here by the early slate, are Milwaukee against Montero, Minnesota against Hagenman and the other fella, whoever that starter is, the Mets against Festa. But if you guys look at this, it is all, there's nobody that stands out. The team that stands out in a bad way would be Toronto against Strider. They're on a complete island with a 3.5 run implied total. Aside from that, look at this, all of these. 4.2 between 4.2 and 4.5. From the Braves against Bassett, Detroit against Quintana, St. Louis against Blanco, Houston against Steven Matz, the Mets against Festa, Minnesota against long reliever Justin Hagenman, and then you have Milwaukee against Kiter Montero at 4.8. So there's nothing really to differentiate a lot of these spots. Let's take a look at the starting pitcher grid over here on Fangraphs for a second. See if we can glean anything from this. It can be helpful from time to time, just to see, if some of these guys are struggling with power, you name it. Let's see. It's still early, let's go 2024, 2025. All right. So now we've got both of these in here. I should have created a custom list, but I forgot to. Montero, 98 innings pitched since the last year. This guy is clearly given up power. I think Milwaukee just has to look like a good stack today. We're getting not a ton of them as a 5-man stack, but a lot as 3-man. And my guess is that's because ownership. Ownership's so important in DFS, in MLB. Like I could talk your ear off about who looks good on paper, but if you're the highest owned stack on a 4-game slate and you still only have a 15% top stack probability, so what, you're telling me there's an 85% chance you're not a top stack? That's tough. And we have them here with a 19% ownership share overall. So factoring in not just 5-man stacks. There's nobody that separates themselves here unless you're trying to get wild and stack Toronto. Between 11 and 15%, all of these teams are there. All of them. That is nuts. Nobody really jumps off the page, which is why, look, Montero clearly is the guy that most people are going to want to pick on today. But how much different, if we're talking implied total, is this 4.8 from the 4.4 and the 4.5s? Not enough at that ownership, I don't think. Yeah, I don't think at that ownership it's necessarily enough. I really don't have much interest in stacking Toronto. There's certain teams that you're just not going to want to get a lot of. But maybe the Mets. Maybe the Mets against Minnesota or against David Festa too. This guy was called up from AAA, made one start, allowed no earned in that start. So we'll give him credit there. But yeah, this is a tough one. This is a tough 4-game slate. No doubt about it. I want to see what some of these lineups look like. If we're getting to primarily, so we have double-digit exposure to the Detroit Tigers, to Toronto against Strider. That's strictly a leverage play here. There's no doubt about it. And plus 10% is not that crazy to begin with. 10% to Minnesota against that committee approach they've got going on. And then 8% to Atlanta. Nothing for St. Louis 5-man against Ronel Blanco. And surprisingly, nothing for the Mets. So how do these lineups shape up here? Festa Montero with a 4-3 Braves Toronto. Listen, if you're playing smaller field stuff, I don't think you need to do that. Blanco Festa with Braves Detroit. Festa Montero with Atlanta Braves and Toronto again. So these are just like really high leverage spots here where you're getting to these Toronto stacks against Strider with like the Festas and Monteros. There's just nobody's going to be playing this. No one's going to be playing these lineups. And look, when they win, you're winning everything, right? If these win, you're winning everything. Just for sure. If a lineup like this, if Strider gets, this is kind of the crazy part. Let's talk through the game theory here for a second. If Strider gets lit up, let's just say, he's not back. If Strider ends up getting lit up and you have like 70% of the field on Spencer Strider and you're not on Strider with a lot of those lineups, it's so difficult to think of it this way, but it makes sense because baseball doesn't make sense. So if Strider doesn't perform well, let's just say he's okay, then not having him could be huge. If Strider gets blown up, not having him is massive. If Strider gets blown up and you have some Toronto stacks, that's just massive. Now, is it likely to happen? No, they have a 3.5 run total. It's of course not likely to happen. Humboldt says, but when you lose, you're losing everything too. Yeah, but also if Strider has a good start, Humboldt, you at least have to acknowledge that you're holding hands with 70% of the field, right? Like a good game from Strider doesn't necessarily move the needle for you big time in a positive direction either. Exactly, Chokehold. Saying you're losing everything either way in baseball. Yeah, that's why when you run these sims, it might be tough to stomach at times because you look at it and you go, man, I don't know if I want to do that. But the truth is these type of high leverage spots can be huge. And if let's say 70% are playing Strider, I think we have him projected for close to that, right? On DraftKings, 67%. So Strider goes out there and throws like 6 1-run innings with 7 Ks. It's a great start, but 70% of the field are on Strider. If Festa goes out there and has a great game, 21% on him. I mean, clearly Montero is the biggest needle mover is Montero. Jake said 4K Mets pitcher is a lock pretty much. Well, he's an opener is the problem, Jake. So what does he go? An inning? Maybe 2 innings? I don't know. Steven, you can't just look at holding hands with Strider. It's who else you have, of course. Yeah, obviously. But it doesn't take away from the fact that if you're not on Strider, it's still better if he does poorly than if you are on him and he does well. That's what I'm saying. 70% is a lot, even for a 4-game slate. I love Strider today. The fact that he threw 90 pitches and struck out literally 2 batters per inning in 13 and 2/3 innings at Gwinnett AAA is crazy. Crazy. But I'm not surprised we aren't getting to a ton. That's all I'm saying. That's all. I mean, look, we can boost him. You want to boost Strider here? And look, I don't know how much you guys factor in Vegas. I think it's important to factor that in. And he has a 5.5. He has a 5.5K prop today. There's certainly upside for Strider, but you're not getting him at a considerable discount, and you're not getting him at discounted ownership. So I'm just, you guys do with this as you want. Like my whole purpose, my whole purpose. What's up, Marquee Sports? Good to see you, brother. Of doing this show isn't to tell you where to go. It's to show you what we're looking at, what the tools are giving us, and what information is out there. And all I can tell you right now is I know why we'd be getting less Spencer Strider in these sims run. You have exorbitant ownership. You have a guy making his first major league start in a year. Understandably, AAA was awesome. But also, he has total outs prop of 16.5. FanDuel and some, sharper books like Penny have it juiced to the under, -118, -135, right? So if you're thinking 18 outs is 6 innings, if you're talking, let's just say 16 outs here, it's 5 1/3. Does it mean he can? These are odds. These aren't future. These aren't fortunes. Like it doesn't mean he's going to land right on 16 or 17. It's just, these are the odds. This is where they've settled, an hour and 15 minutes before first pitch. And then total strikeouts, you've got Strider sitting at 5.5. 5.5. 6.5 on FanDuel. Were they not even offering an under on this right now? Like the 5.5, you have juice on the over, which is good, but it's still 5.5 K prop, 16.5 outs, right? That's what I can tell you. Anthony, I know I've mentioned it 100 times, brother. I know he threw 90. I knew he struck out 27 in 13 innings. I'm giving you the odds here. You do with it as you please. I think if you're playing today's slate and you're playing a bunch of lineups, you definitely want Strider. But if you're playing a single entry contest and your question is, like, do you think you have to play Strider? No, I don't think you have to play Strider if you're playing a single entry contest where he's probably going to be, in some of those single entry contests, like 75, 80% owned. It's not rocket science. The truth is that Strider probably has a good game today. But if 80% of the field is on a guy where, the jury's still out on Strider in his first start, I don't think anyone would. Mighty Quince at Vegas saying he's on a pitch. Yeah, like Vegas is saying right around 16 outs. It's not me saying that. You can come at me for plenty of things, and I'm not saying you are, but you come at me for plenty of things. The pitch count on Strider is not one of them. I'm just giving you what every book is showing. So yeah, if you're playing a single entry, do I have to play Strider in a single entry? I don't think so. No, of course not. Not if you're fading 80% Strider, 75% Strider. Trevor Laffey, what would you say is your most standard stack size? I don't really discriminate, and I think it's dependent on slate too. I'll run what the tools give me, and there's a lot of 4-4s in here, a lot of 5-2s, a lot of 3-3s. So I'm not going to discriminate against one stack type or the other, especially talking about a 4-game slate here. Yeah. DFS temp. I think the Strider discourse would matter more if we had an expensive stack that graded out super well today, but we got to spend the money somewhere, and there aren't a ton of good expensive bats. Well, I mean, or you just leave a little bit on the table. It's baseball. This isn't like the NFL main slate, right? Where if you're leaving money on the table, you're crazy. No, I don't know. I don't think it makes that much of a difference. You're either rolling with Strider and running with the field, which is, okay. Or if you're playing some of these contests and you wanted to get away from the chalkiest player on the slate, you don't play him. Or you play less of him. You get under the field on him. Like right now, with this last run I have, what did I say? We have like 13% Strider. Scares the shit out of me. But I can tell you this much. How many times have you guys had an instance where you love your lineups, right? Where you love your exposures and it ends up terribly. So once you can kind of program yourself to look at it that way, you know, sometimes you're okay getting away from the chalk. More times than not, I look at things, I go, man, these exposures look great. These look really good. I love these stacks. I love these pitching exposures. And then by 8 o'clock Eastern, you're cooked. Like, baseball doesn't make sense. That's why, you know, getting these leverage spots and these type of contrarian lineups can be effective. That is all. Anyway, okay, what are your guys' favorite pitcher pairings with these stacks then? Let's talk about it before we get out of here. Get some comments and we'll touch on it. Because I don't think anything really differentiates a lot of these teams. That's the God honest answer. I don't think there's much that differentiates Toronto against Quintana from, you know, Minnesota against Hagenman or, you know, Milwaukee against Kiter Montero. I don't think there is. The one differentiator is that Milwaukee's getting a lot of ownership today. Milwaukee's a very popular stack. You know, you look at this, Milwaukee, the highest owned stack on the slate. Mets, second highest owned stack. Detroit against Quintana is very low owned, and Toronto against Strider, rightfully so, very low owned. But Milwaukee's pretty popular. Chokehold and Blanco, then probably Festa. I get that. Yeah. Yep. Michael Kennedy, I'm telling you now, Braves won't throw Strider 90 pitches against Toronto in April. They just won't. You know what? You could be right. He threw 90 at rehab, but does that 100% mean that he's going out and tossing 95 today? No. And the odds would suggest that he's somewhere on a type of pitch count for sure. For sure. By the way, guys, I hope you already are taking advantage of all of the tools we have over at OddsShopper. I would pray that you are, because if you haven't, you're leaving money on the table. The Discord was popping off last night. No more volatile playoff regular season basketball. A lot of those pickets with top 5, top 10, top 1% thrown out there in Discord. A lot of excitement. NBA playoffs are here. You had awesome play-in game with Memphis and Golden State last night. I was sweating an over Jaren Jackson rebound prop that he got to at the last second. But yeah, all of these baseball props, if you haven't tried it, it is free for your first week. Claim it. Do yourself a huge favor and at the very least check it out. Even if you say, I want to start with $100 bankroll, you will compound your returns into something significant. Anybody looks at you and goes, oh man, garbage. 6.9% ROI. That's terrible. 6.9% ROI is huge when you're talking about this style of betting where you're getting down as much as you can. I know I've beat this horse to death, or beat this dead horse even more dead. But I say it because, like, it is genuinely the easiest way to almost like make passive income. I'm limited everywhere. I have almost 6,000 in March with a 3% ROI, limited across every book. If you guys have healthy accounts on these books and you can get down like full out, you know, good bet sizes without having to worry about that, you're going to see that chart just climb upwards quickly. So if you haven't yet, link is in the description. Check it out. No better way to combat the crazy variance that we're talking about in MLB DFS than to make sure that you're being smart about betting and you're getting bets in. You use this mass entry tool, click bets. Look, 15 bets for DraftKings right now. That'll load all 15 of them into your bet slip. 15 for FanDuel, straight into your bet slip. You bet them, get 100 plus bets in less than 30 minutes a day, and also be able to sweat basketball, sweat baseball. I can't say enough good things about this, mostly because all the endorsements that come in and people saying, hey, listen, I was struggling, I was treading water, and now I'm crushing. So yeah, man, playoff baseball crushed last year. It's going to kill this year. Love to get you guys on board. Come hang out in the Discord and let's make some money together outside of just DFS. Don't think of this as like, I now can't play DFS. Do both. Do both. And it's free for your first week. If you hate it, just bounce before your first week. Just cancel before your first week is up. But I think you'll like it, especially if you're making money. All right, let's wrap it with this. let's wrap it with this. Highest exposed stacks right now. We're getting to Detroit against Quintana, Toronto against Strider. This is going to scare a lot of people. Make sure to make some adjustments if you really hate this. You can make some good lineups that are already high simulated ROIs. Minnesota against this Mets team, I like that as well. And then Atlanta against Chris Bassett. All of this stuff looks good. Now it comes down to Strider. I think I tried to hit on as much as we could here. Appreciate you guys as always. Appreciate you. Trevor, yeah, I agree. It comes down to that. But it comes down to your own decisions. Which one do you feel more comfortable with? And how comfortable are you with fading a 70, 80% guy? That's it. If you can dodge high-owned landmines today, you're going to be sitting really, really pretty on a 4-game slate. Yeah. Cho called him, in a day and age of the Sims, boost the Mets if it's not giving Met stacks. Sure. Because it's already going to be Met stacks that were good lineups. Now you're just boosting them into your own. All right. Hey, guys, appreciate it. Oh, and if you don't mind, on your way out, tap that thumbs up. Goes a long way. Atone for your sins this fine morning. Leave a comment down below and subscribe. It's free to do so. Hit me up on Twitter. You can see my handle down there at Loughy_D, LOUGHY_D. We'll shoot the shit, have some fun. My DMs are always open, especially if you want to talk a little sports betting. I'll teach you how to build portfolios, optimize your process, get well on your way to profiting. And then when you have those, negative 80% days in MLB, but you have a big day betting with Portfolio EV and you had to do no legwork and zero research, you'll be very excited about that. I know I am. So happy to help you set that up whenever you guys want. We'll see you guys back here tomorrow, live before lock. This will be at 11. I think the slate locks at 12 Eastern. So tune in 11 o'clock live before lock for the early slate, and then we'll wrap up the week on Friday. Peace.